Just up the coast of Lake Michigan, a few hours north of Chicago, there rests a small town in Wisconsin. This unassuming little village named Elkhart Lake has the notoriety of being home to one of the most beloved road courses in the country. Fittingly, the track is even called Road America. But with its nickname, America's National Park of Speed, you get exactly what's on the tin. It's all about top end today as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Racing Edge Sim Racing series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlocker and Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. With a pedigree including Can-Am, IndyCar, and NASCAR, this is a place that has earned its stripes. Let's head down to our track guide to learn more about the makeup of the circuit. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. There you see some of the sights around here. Beautiful skies today. But Nick, why don't you go down to the track from the sky and talk to us a little bit about the details of this popular place?
Yeah, you already mentioned the nickname America's National Park of Speed, and you can get a sense of that by seeing that this is a 6.5 kilometer track or 4 mile long track, but it's only got 14 turns. That means you've got lots of straightaways to make some great passes. The draft and the slipstream will certainly help you. Now, all season long, we have talked about how these two classes, the GT3s and the TCRs, will race with multi class racing. Of course, it's always a big headache for the drivers, and Road America might offer the best opportunity for some great multi-class racing because they do have a lot of room to get around each other, and in a 30-minute race they might not even catch each other that often at a track this big. What I'm more concerned about here, Joe, is the racing in class because you've got a lot of tighter corners here. I'm looking especially at turns 5 and 6. That's where we see a lot of issues here in class, and not much runoff there. So a tiny little mistake will be extra punishing here at Road America, especially when you've got to keep up all that straight line speed.
And that'll be a talking point in the qualifying that we'll get to in a moment. But the race itself, we might have new viewers here. Steph, why don't you run down the race details and educate them?
Well, two beautiful skies, a beautiful track in front of us, and shall be beautiful 30 minutes of racing here at round 4 of this 6 race series with the Audi RS3. That's the TCR class, and the Audi R8, that is your GT3 here today. And there's cash prizes for the podium finishers of both classes. It's fixed setups, and it should be very great racing because especially that TCR, it's extremely strong here, and with the draft it has, oh boy, be in for some great draft battles.
I anticipate a few trains forming. But if you want to get on the train to racing, if you want to put your racing skills to the test on the track, visit racingedge.com and check out the latest listing for race cars and classic cars. From super quick McLarens to vintage Ferraris, racingedge.com will cater for your needs. Want to learn more about how to get into motor racing? Visit racingedge.com/media for more. Big thanks to them for being the promoter of this race. And also, right now out in qualifying, we've got a few drivers who have gotten that first lap time in. Ethan Simeone seems to be the top of the timing sheets in the GT3s. You talked about those TCRs, though, and it looks like we're just getting a few Steph now putting their first times in.
Yeah, few coming in, few coming out. It's going to be interesting to see how all they shape up right now. Kenton Koch just overtook Simeone for that first place at a 4 seconds, 0.227. There we go, 2 minutes 4 seconds in that lap time. About 3 tenths ahead of Simeone right now as we see Sladusic coming over the line for his first time.
Looks like that was a 26.3, but it did not count for him, so he had an off track somewhere. As we now watch Sanders come around and across the line at 2:05.2. He will get a clean one. They only get 2 timed laps here, Nick, and we talked about that. Those off tracks, they don't have much time in the first place to get these qualifying laps in, but the off tracks, I feel like, could put a few people at the back.
Man, they only get 2 opportunities to set a lap time. 2 off tracks over 2 laps. You're not going to get a lap time in. You're going to have to start at the back. That's something that we just saw Zlad Dojsic struggle with, and a couple other drivers, I'm sure, are struggling with that as well. It's certainly going to be a talking point, not really during the race, but especially now because track position is going to be so hard to make up if they do have to start the rear.
Certainly, and Morad put a good first lap in, I should say. Daniel up to 4th that time around. We were kind of keeping an eye on him and some of our other real-world drivers. Latifi struggling a bit here compared to how he did at Silverstone. We're all kind of curious before we went live how much experience he has with this track being so close to Canada as he comes across for his second time. And it looks like it's not going to be quicker for Nicholas Syandra as well. Tends to be very quick, but also another one who is having a bit of a tough time being fast, and his first lap is not going to count. He will have enough to get a second one in.
As we watch Michael Melvin crossing the start finish line, right behind him it's Kenton Cook once again over it, and he took on an off track, so that lap didn't count. And guys, I think that might be something that we have to worry a little bit, because they do have drive-through penalties for too much incidents.
Yeah, that's a good point. At 25 incidents, they will get that drive-through. So pole looks to be potentially decided. Checking to see if anybody else is able to put a second lap in. Ellis has parked his car. Morat, maybe. He's been bumped down to 5th because it looks like Carlos Cantu has come through. Mildly faster for Morat, and that's only going to get him back into 4th, so onto the second row for the number 70. Looking to see who else is getting ready to finish. We still need about a dozen cars to put times in. Andra still coming around. Take him as well. Should barely be able to get by in time for his second lap. Ramson Hito, as well as James J.J. Ross, still out there on their second laps. Nick, the good news is I think lap traffic at least should be mildly easier here today with all these long straights.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot of good opportunities to pass. Really, the only bad parts of this track, I think, to pass multi-traffic are the carousel and then probably the kink, which, if that's really the biggest sacrifice they have to make, they can back off the gas a little bit. Hopefully, we don't see that affect too much of battles throughout the faster class here, the GT3s, but Road America not really notorious for causing a lot of those multi-class incidents, and hopefully in just a 30-minute race they'll probably only catch each other once or twice, and they'll probably be all right.
Andra's lone counted lap puts him into the top 10. That's a good sign for him. So let's see, looks like we got Take Him coming around. We're watching JJ Ross now. Number 31 on his first time lap was a failed attempt. So he's going to try and see how far up the TCR class he can go. Up and over the hill to the start-finish line. He just needs a time, doesn't need to be super quick. A 2:21.5, that is going to count, and that's actually going to be good enough for 11th.
Oh, and Taikim is gonna start from the back as his second lap also didn't count. So 2 zeros for him in this qualifying.
See, Hopkins has already taken his 2 laps, and so he's abandoning there with 6 seconds left. That's going to be it. Our qualifying is now over. Let's go through our starting grid today, 10 by 10. Kenton Cook up on the pole. We watched him race just recently over in a Porsche, but hopping over to the Audi, looks like he's just as fast. Ethan Simeone starting second today with Carlos Cantu in P3. Daniel Morad, we saw his second lap was good enough for fourth with Alex Ellis starting in fifth. And it's Nick Rowland on the outside of row 3 in sixth position. Giuliano Romagnolo, not quite as fast as we've seen in previous rounds, but still decent with a 7th place. You've got Alex Herrera starting 8th with Alexander Davidson in P9. Cy Andra in 10th is followed by the next one down the line in the number 6 car.
Behind is going to be Andrew Waring starting 11th, Mark Alguero, Nick Del Campo, and Gavin Sanders rounding out row number 7. Then from the Williams F1 car to the 15th place is going to be Nicholas Latifi, Michael Melvin, and Dustin Coates will be starting behind them. Then you've got they will be starting with the GT3s behind them, but on the grid you're going to have Curtis Fox, Rich Price, and Paulo Brem on the front 3 podium for the TCR class.
Stefan Jeffrey is going to be 25th on the grid with Christopher Bailey in 26th. Jacob Exton is going to be in 27th. Maxwell Kittleson 28th. Jack Rivanier is going to be 29th. And the 7 of James Llewellyn is going to be in 30th.
31st goes to Michael Ogren, and then you've got James J.J. Ross with that lone attempt at the very end into 32nd. Ryan Renard just behind him in 33rd. On the outside of that row, it's Mike D. Mills. Nico Christodoulou in 35th will be followed by Zlad Dojsic. Now, he tends to be a little bit higher up in qualifying, so see if he can work his way through the field like we've seen him do before. Then in 37th, it'll be Jason Riley with Michael Shaughnessy in the 38th position. David Schwartz will be 39th, and then Nick, we've got Emerald Hopkins in 40th.
Yes, and then right behind, just a couple other drivers to round out this field. It's going to be Brian Zinn, Ramson Hito, Daryl Timmers, and Alex Federico, who did not get a time up on the...
Just as the pace car actually takes off. So we're heading around for our pace lap. Steph, I'm very curious because the RS3 is a front-wheel drive car. Now, there aren't a whole lot of places where they have a long extended turns, but where they do, the carousel, is that going to make it hard on those left fronts? Is that going to be a concern?
It's most definitely going to be a concern, especially if you are quite fighting quite hard with someone else. Then you obviously use your tires even more, and that puts even more stress onto them. Not to forget also that they're on the new tire model, so the heat is going to be quite well translated into how your tire is going to feel. And that means you have that long carousel, and then right after the very important kink, and if you run wide there, you are going to be in trouble as well. Same thing pretty much for the GT3. They have to be careful on their rear tires, because we all know that R8 loves to slide that rear, so they have to be careful to not overheat their tires through the carousel and then lose their car and crash very hard in the kink.
It's interesting to see who's shown today, because we do have some of our real-world drivers back, but missing a few of the familiar faces. Sad that we don't have Michael Cooper here again, but one that has returned, Simeone, racing in the Porsche GT3 Cup. Unfortunately, going to have to hop over to another German make here today. Though they are led by a Porsche there, the pace car up at the front. Coming through some of the more technical portions now here, Nick. We talked about that traffic. I guess this is where it could get a little tricky here.
Yeah, it might be a little bit tricky, but I'm really thinking that we're going to see more action there in class, especially this GT3 class with a little bit bigger car. Not much room on the track there. You're really going to have to be brave to get a pass done. But it's so tempting because it offers so many good passing opportunities. You can get such a good run to the inside of someone after a long stretch.
So they now come into the carousel, that long right-hander we were talking about. A lot of elevation change here that track dips down until it gets to the lowest part, which is the kettle bottoms, which will be right after the kink. Now, we covered a race here recently, Steph, and with the Camel GT series, and much like these cars, there's a wide difference in speed between them, especially in corners like this. I mean, what are you expecting? Do you think we'll be able to get away unscathed, or are we due for some wild action through there?
Well, it is all about the R8, obviously. If the R8 is careful, nothing is going to happen through the kink. But if they are aggressive, which sometimes can happen, or the RS3 doesn't give them enough room, we might see some troubles. The good thing is, normally the R8 can go easily around the outside of the RS3. The thing just is, the TCR has to keep the inside line, and then the R8 has all the grip it needs to go around the outside, even with a whole lot of marbles down there. So I don't really expect too much trouble through the kink, because you still have the passing opportunity at the carousel, but with multi-class, you never know.
Before we get racing here, quick look at the weather. 91 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. So just about right, not too hot, although a little warm for our drivers, but partly cloudy. It should stay relatively cool unless they don't get the relief of a cloud. Kenton Cook now has control of the field as they come up the front stretch. Number one car takes off and accelerates away. Green flag is out. Bit of an early start here from Kenton Cook, and that checks up the second line, as Cantu is going to be able to move into second place. A squeeze from Simeone, trying to keep them pinned down to the inside, but it looks like Morad's going to be able to get through potentially. Oh no, not a good enough exit off of the first corner, though he still has the overlap. Meanwhile, we've got the TCRs starting.
Yeah, top two worst single file, but Jacob Exton and that was Paulo Brem had it coming together. You were able to see him in the gravel. Also some kerfuffling behind. There was a car spun around in the gravel trap. But apart from that, everything is nice and clean. It's now Stefan Jeffrey makes a mistake through turn number 3, and that gives the opportunity to Exton to move past into third place.
Whoa, we had 3 wide down into turn 5 from the GT3s. Somehow they came out the other end with Simeone, up at the front of them. Roman Yolos to his inside down through turn 6, and they're still going to battle side by side now as they come up to turn 7. They're going to hold each other up a lot, and it looks like Simeone loses that game of chicken with Morad now down to the inside into the hurried downs. Everybody's stacked up. Look at this. Oh, we got a car off. That's Waring.
Morad got his revenge over Simeone. Simeone was the one that knocked him off the track. He came back on, and thanks to Giuliano Romagnolo coming through the middle, he got back around Simeone. That's where they fall in line, second, third, and fourth.
Single file now, thankfully. And it looks like we've got a pretty similar situation with the TCRs, as they've mostly settled out. Well, we had one problem in the kink from our GT3s. Nick Del Campo, don't need to go to it, but he is off course, so thankfully, there you see him right there. No big dramas.
Yeah, just the usual R8 that bites you a little bit if you're not careful through that kink. As I said, it likes to slide that rear out, and that's exactly what it did to him, as Christopher Bailey uses his braking spot a little bit and gives the opportunity to O'Green as he went really wide through the Canadian corner, and then touch! But front wheel drive saves the day, and Christopher Bailey keeps it all together.
Oh, and Nicholas Latifi just rejoined the track right with our TCRs. He was in an incident with Chris Regium. Now he's able to stretch away, though, so at least he didn't harm that battle too much up at the front. We're going to look at the replay. This happened in the final turn. The Canadian made it through Canada corner, but the rest of the track seems difficult.
Yeah, this was this all by himself, the initial spin? Of course, I did see Chris Regium come through and have to take to the grass to avoid him, but it looks like Latifi just kind of lost it there. Not quite in the final turn, but kind of at the exit of Bill Mitchell.
Let's see, this will give us our best angle here. Oh yeah, he did lose it on his own. You're right. And if we come back live, Kenton Cook was in a side-by-side battle with Cantu for the lead. Carlos not quite able to get it.
Yeah, I've been watching this one. Cantu has been making a couple of attempts at getting this thing side by side. He had it in turn 1 around the outside, almost was able to hold that, but He's really struggling to find the room on the track out.
Riding on board with Carlos now. These two have left the rest behind. Roman Yolo 2 seconds back. As they come through the kink, it sounds like we got some action back in the TCRs for 5th.
Yeah, they were for a short moment side by side, too wide actually, or rather too deep with Andrew Waring, who is trying to overtake them.
Ooh.
Now in for 6th, they're too deep, 2 by 2. Michael Ogren getting past that slot. Duisic also in the middle of that. Max Kittleson gets the worst of that, loses 3 positions, make that 4 with Nico Christodoulou also going past on the inside. Or actually, does he? That is going to be interesting. Also with the R8, Christodoulou thinks better of that. The R8 does as well. Everybody goes smiling out the other side, except for who is that? It's Kittleson. He goes into the grass.
Oof, and that caused Christodoulou to have to take evasive action. He almost tipped the 05.
3 wide there. That was Paulo Brem shooting through the middle. We also had, there's contact between Kittleson and Paulo Brem now. Also Andrew Waring had an issue through the kink. He did rejoin the track just ahead of them. And now Bailey and Duisic are fighting for 5th place. This is red hot right now.
Oof, my goodness. This certainly isn't Sparta, because this is madness between these drivers. And looks like our 2 R8s are going to be able to get by. That's still Campo being pushed along by Waring. As the draft starts to pick up with Duisic, we wondered if he could climb up the order. Well, he's up to 6th, but he's lost a gap to JJ Ross in front of him. As they come up to the corner, he's going to defend a little bit. A bump from Bailey, trying to get him hotter into the corner as he's shallow, and Bailey's going to lose a lot of time on the exit. Boy, this is fierce for the start of a 30-minute race.
Oh, Bailey just got kicked out a little bit there by Ogren. Now Paulo Brem says, thank you very much. Takes 2 in 1.
Ogren to the inside, doesn't have the speed, but could try and outbrake him. Kittleson looking to try and come back into things. Oh, but they're all going to swing to the inside. He's going to have to work hard to try and get this one away from Ogren. He manages to get in there. He's got the apex off of turn 5. Give P8 to Maxwell. Just wild stuff here in the TCR class, and we're barely 7 minutes into this race. Of course, this group has dropped off significantly from the top 5 in this class. This is where most of the action is in the slower cars. Sounded like we had a bit of a change for 3rd in the GT3s. What's the update on that, Nick?
And we might have another one, because Ethan Simeone into the carousel got around Giuliano Romagnolo, but in turn number 14 again, we've seen another mistake. Simeone went wide, and Romagnolo was almost able to get around him. He was flashing the lights at him, but he chose not to make a dive to the inside of turn number 1.
Mixed with it. Norad still right behind them as well, so if these two start fighting, things could get even hotter very quickly. Sounds like we had another car lost to the kink, though. Steph, what happened?
Yeah, Rich Price, he got overtaken by our 2 R8s that were trying to drive through the field. He hit the outside wall because of that and then spun in Canada corner. Now he also hit the higher barriers on the exit out of the turn. There we can actually see the number 3. He just hit that higher barrier just a few moments ago out of the last turn. Now falling back to just 16th, 17th in class after starting this lap in 5th.
Miserable day there for him. Unfortunately, he's lacking all kinds of speed up to the longest straight on the track. A little bit ahead of him, Zlad Duisic still working on Bream. And how about this? Looks like Christodoulou with Ogren to his inside. As we're riding on board with Duisic just behind them. It changed for position. Ogren gets into 7th.
Yeah, but wait for Christodoulou. He's going to come back right here down the big straight. He is going to have the opportunity to the inside of turn number 6. He goes to that. That's the left side on the driver. And he takes it. Also, Duisic up ahead makes a mistake. Not able to do anything with that, but it drills them closer to him.
All packed together now. The one that's loving this is Paolo, The 15 has stretched away by over a second and is now into the top 5. Down through the hurry downs. Nico a little bit under threat from Ogren, but he doesn't poke his nose out. Behind them, a little bit of an attempt from Bailey on Timmers. That didn't quite work. Boy, it's been non-stop here in this TCRs, and poor Nick has been kind of left out to dry up there in the GT3s. Just not nearly as much action. I'm sure it'll change once they hit traffic.
I believe that will definitely change, especially if these TCRs keep battling as much side by side as they have. It's going to take a lot for Kenton Cook and Carlos Cantu to get around, but I can report that battle for the GT3 lead really has, like you said, it's calmed down quite a bit as they make their way through 3 downs.
Take a little glance at it. That was just a GT3 trying to go through our TCRs there, so that wasn't for position that we saw. So we check on Cook. 9/10 ahead of Cantu for the time being. Carlos certainly keeping him in check. So from his perspective, see if we can figure out how hard exactly he's pushing on this.
And he seems to be falling off the last couple of laps. Cook has really been flying. Cantu had him, for the first couple of laps, but seems to be losing it here as we're about 10 minutes in, about a third of the way through.
We had an off with one of our front runners in the TCRs. That was Doisich. Lost a whole bunch of positions. Oh my goodness! I think at least 8 cars went by him.
Yeah, he is now sitting in 14th instead of in 6th place. That's how long this train is of TCRs here. The midfield pretty much stretches all the way in the midfield. He just got overtaken by, who was that? Chris Reacham, that was. And a little bit off his footing there, having to defend from the car behind. And that's how I lost it. Oh, he actually got bumped. Never mind.
Yeah, that looked a little sketchy to me, and I'm sure he's not too happy about that move.
Oh, and he just got turned.
That
just got turned.
With Federico, it looks like, doing the turning. Doisich, unfortunately, off the track. I don't think he hit anything. Was that within his class, or was that?
That was within his class, yeah. He was trying to overtake Federico, and ahead of him, Brian Sin is going to have a moment with Kittleson. And that's how all of that got kicked off. There we can see the aftermath of that RS3.
Man, really bad lap for poor Doisich. Let's go back to Morad, though. Ian Davidson in a very tight fight for 5th place right now in the GT3s here. Nick Davidson only 3/10 back.
Yeah, Morad has been thrown off of his fight for 4th place in front of him because he's been distracted by Alexander Davidson, who came all the way up from 9th place at the start. In just 10 minutes, he's caught Daniel Morad, and he definitely is flexing the pace of that number 24. We see him out the rear wing.
Keep cameras on this fight, but for those wondering, the drivers who currently are in those cash paying positions are Cook, Cantu, Simeone in the GT3s. Fox, Exton, and Jeffrey are going to come away with some cash today if they can stay where they are. Again, no pit stops expected in this race, so it is all about that dash to the line.
You can see he just seems to be falling off a little bit there through the wake that Daniel Morad's car is giving it. Might be able to catch him here on the front straightaway, though.
That draft has been powerful in the TCRs, but what about here in the GT3s? Is this going to be enough? Davidson a tiny bit back. I don't think he's going to gain enough. It's staying at about 0.5 of a second. Great run in the final half of the lap there for Daniel Morad.
Looked a little bit more competitive right behind these guys. Alex Ellis had to fend off Nick Rowland there. That was back for 7th place. They're a little bit tighter, and you can see just how late on the brakes Rowland is getting down there into turn number 3.
Talking to the promoters for this race, Rowland was one they kind of tipped as a hot shoe here in the sim. He's within the top 10 right now, but he's not on the podium. He's still hunting Ellis as they approach some of our traffic. That's going to be Hopkins in front of them, as well as Schwartz. Ooh, that holds up the exit for Ellis, slows him up, lessens the gap. Roland, though, is a little boxed in with all the traffic. Can't do anything with it there, and there goes that opportunity.
Yeah, those were just some of the stragglers off the end of the TCR field, but they will eventually be catching up to the bulk of the field, which was still in a pretty decent battle in a couple different spots. That's definitely going to be chaotic for these GT3 cars to get
down in 6th, and that fight that you were just talking about. It's Nico in the 22, still leading a train of 4. They've lost a few of them over time. Used to be a lot more than this, but it's still Ogren, Bailey, and Timmers giving chase.
Yeah, still is that 4-car train for that position. Also, a little bit of an update. We have a battle brewing in 2nd place in this class. It's right now just 6/10 between Exton and Jeffrey, so we might soon have a battle in hand for that
we
second
got one
spot
here,
on the
though.
podium.
Ogren got a great run out of the final turn. Christodoulou is really defenseless here. He could go to the inside only, and already that car is passed in the braking zone. Ogren is now going to lead the quartet. Different braking zones among them as they head down into turn 3, but it's not the braking, it's the exit off the turn as they come onto the Marine sweep. Everybody is focused on. Reed right on board with Ogren, looking back at Nico. He's gaining. A little bit of a defensive move now from Ogren as he covers off the inside. A little bit of an overlap as they get to the braking for turn 5. Downhill into this corner. It's going to be shallow for Ogren. Can Nico get the launch off the corner? Not quite. He's staying with it. Ogren has the desired line into turn 6. Oh, and is that Timmers? A little bit of a shove. No, it's Bailey. Bailey getting himself into the mix and absolutely inserting himself into the fight. That was a little rude. Ooh, and another off there behind them. It's been a bad lap for Nico. Not only did he get shoved off, but he made a mistake down into turn 8, and now he's losing yet more positions.
He came right back on track in the middle of that GT3 lead. That's Cantu right behind him. He's losing a ton of time right now to the leader, Kenton Cook, who's doing a fantastic job weaving through traffic.
Traffic management going to be important today after all, it seems. Watching from Cantu's perspective, just got by Kittleson now. Up next is going to be Timmers. That's the trio that's left of the quartet we were talking about earlier. Oh, Bill Mitchell Bend is not a too wide place. Thankfully, he parks it between the cars. And he's going to get by Bailey without incident.
Cantu actually losing time here to Ethan Simeone, who is able to catch. He's being able to catch him. He's fending off Romagnolo, still there for 3rd, but look at that. That gap has shrunk immensely on the front straightaway now.
Yeah, it's certainly down to a battle for 2nd now among these 3. Cantu trying to pull away as they come up to turn 1. Simeone and Romagnolo getting bigger in his mirrors. Let's see if they have any other traffic up in front of them. Paulo Bream going to be next along with JJ Ross.
Oh, that's Michael Ogren, I think, off in the background of the TCR. He got bumped by a GT3 car coming through. He actually got bumped by Alexander Davidson, who was in 6th place, trying to chase down more.
Wow. Ooh. Now, that might have been a little bit of net code causing it to be a bigger shove than it really should have been. It looked like he shouldn't have been bumped that roughly. Ooh, but from on board you could see the car just jostle around.
Certainly a close call there. That wall was perfectly angled.
We come back to this battle in the TCRs now. Ooh, we've got a big accident in the GT3s. Ellis is on his lid. The 74 and the 67 of Roland as well, just under the Road America bridge. There you see the unfortunate car stuck like a turtle.
They were struggling to get around James Ross. He actually had an off, and he came back on the track, I think, in front of these guys. That is tough, especially a tough break for Nick Rowland, who looked like he had an evacuation route.
Oh, we just had a crash for P2 and GCR as well.
Man,
boy.
things getting very rough out here. That was the 31 of Ross and the 15 of Bream, I think.
Yeah, and the worst was actually by Daniel Mora, the number 70 GT3 car.
Yeah, he got taken out too here, Morad.
Ooh, and Morad was one of our front runners there. Thought I heard a little bit of discussion on the radio. Seemed a few people were quite unhappy. Down at Canaccord, just banging doors. Oof.
Yeah, it was between Jacob Exton and Stefan Jeffrey, and yeah, I don't know. Morad did come into that P2 battle as the GT3 into Canada corner, but quite honestly, he was quite pushing the gap there. There was only about a car width anyway for him to stuck his GT3 in. And yeah, that's why he got in the very end turn.
Let's head back to the GT3 class because Simeone is really starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, other than the accidents, we didn't have any change of position until now. And Cantu, he slides, he goes wide, and Simeone is able to duck in underneath from third on up to second. That was a huge gap that he had to close through traffic, and he gets the job done.
Great move from Ethan. So the Porsche GT3 driver now in an even higher position, going to get a little bit more money in his pocket. Poor Exton was on the radio, heated up about something out there. I'm guessing it was that incident that Steph was talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Down through the kink, our GT3 leaders go.
Not only that, but Jeffrey did once again try to go around the inside of Exton there into the hairpin, as I like to call it, turn 6 that is, at the very bottom of the track there on the backstretch. And yeah, Exton really didn't like that move either, and that's why he came on the radio.
Taking a look at Jeffrey, still fighting for that third spot. Exton ahead of him. So is this going to get a little bit more physical? They start to be approached now. They've also got Herrera and Morad back there. And he had to take evasive action. Car going across the track, and there goes Jeffrey. Off into the tires, a little glancing blow into the barrier. He's going to get away with it, but a number of positions, no, only one position lost as he stays in fourth.
He was really pressured by that battle for eighth in the GTRs, Herrera and Morad, who are still actually side by side on the front straightaway. Underneath some TCR traffic, Herrera is going to get the job done for now. Morad's going to try to answer him.
As we come back live after that replay, Herrera in the 95 down into turn 3. Going to be a little bit more shallow. Morad coming back at him. Gets the launch off of that corner as the track weaves back and forth. Which side are they going to pick? Sometimes it's going to be hard to tell. Herrera sticks to the inside. Morad tries to squeeze him. They make contact. Morad has to take off to the runoff, but they both outbrake themselves, and Daniel Morad is going to get the spot.
The definition of elbows out racing right there from Daniel Morad. Great job to get around Herrera, and that could have been a much worse incident for both.
Down to the PCR, Steph, it looks like we got lots of fun going on. Looks like JJ Ross went a little bit off track, I think. He got shoved aside as well in turn 5. This one with Jeffrey.
Yeah, Jeffrey ain't too happy right now, but I think that was also just him outbreaking himself there a little bit. Although he did quite nicely make the corner, even if JJ Ross wouldn't have been there, so I might even just put that down to just different braking points. And Jeffrey not realizing how early some other competitors are braking.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at that, he made it work nicely. Thankfully, they're both able to continue, so no harm, no foul. It's been a wild race, and we've barely gone through it. We just had a change for 6th place in the GT3s. Davidson and Andra swapping around as Mark Alguero watches. In fact, I think he's getting a little bit hungry for a position. Which way he's going to pick? He looks to the inside. Late defense as Andra's distracted by the battle in front. Almost chops him off. Davidson with a little bit of an overlap with Andra, but he's deeper on the brakes, and they're going to stay in position.
Hey, you may be wondering why Davidson fell down through the order from 5th back to 6th and 7th here. He actually had a self-spin in Canada corner on the last lap. He lost a ton of time, and he lost a 5th place to Gavin Sanders. That will wind him up in this battle with Andra and Mark Alguero charging hard here on the long straightaway.
Got the inside once again. Last time he couldn't make it stick, though. He's deeper on the brakes this time. He takes the apex cleanly and gets it done with a textbook move.
Andra continues to move up through the field, but how about Mark Alguero after starting back in 12th? Can he get another spot here? Davidson, he's certainly got those tires heated.
Watching from the roof of Mark, the 43 fell back a little bit down through turn 7. Before, he was right on top of them. And if he's maybe not quite as fast when they aren't battling, let's see here as they come through the carousel. Car starts to catch up a little bit. Out of the corner, down towards the kink, and off the corner. Alguero struggling on corner exit.
Certainly is, and looks like right at the apex there, Davidson really struggled through the kink. That is going to allow another opportunity for Alguero to come back. This is where Davidson lost to end the last lap. He's going to be early braking, trying to be conservative through there. Not going to allow Alguero an opportunity to get by.
This is one of our closest fights here in the GT3s in this final 5 minutes of the race. On to the front stretch. All right, here we go again. It's all about that launch off the corner. Andra looking good. Davidson looking decent. So poor Alguero at the tail of the train. Not sure that he's going to get the shot that he wants.
It's a long lap around here, and there's a couple different straightaways where he's going to be able to get some slipstream, but yeah, I think you're right. If he can't get him there on the front stretch, he's going to be really struggling on the Moraine Street.
Nothing up for grabs here in this battle except for pride as Bailey and Timmers just swap spots. Timmers gets himself into 6th. Get interrupted. That's Dustin Coates behind them.
This was about the 3rd time Timmers and Bailey did switch in this race. So nothing new for those two guys, as they now have reeled in James J.J. Ross, as he made a mistake in turn 1 and just continues to struggle right now with his tires. Dropped really away from Jeffrey and Brem.
Ethan Simeone trying to defend Carlos Cantu here for 2nd place in the GT3s. He has spun, hit the wall hard. He's going to lose that position and fall off the podium here.
Oh, such a shame. That 23 was looking so good. Oh, it was wheels in the grass. That's all it took, is that tiny mistake. Severe damage on the right side of the car.
I don't know if he's out of it yet. He's still got Romagnolo in his sights. That's him right in front. He's certainly got a lot of right side damage, but if Romagnolo is forced into a mistake here, he could get back on that podium.
Watch from on.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he just had another little touch with the grass. He's pushing hard. Kenton Cook is taking 2 laps to go just now. Our leader in the GT3 is getting close to the end here, and he's got a handy 3.2 seconds back to Cantu. Simeone not looking good in a straight line. I don't think he's going to have anything for him.
Paolo Brem and Stefan Jeffrey are also starting to get tighter and tighter together right now. Paolo Brem, after his very early mistake getting shoved out, I think it was in turn 1, pretty much lap 1, he continued his rise and he is once again in a podium position. He's right where he started, in 3rd place. So he's most definitely trying to defend that, not only for pride, but also for the money.
What can Jeffrey do here? We've seen the elbows get out multiple times in both of the classes, so I don't think this is going to be a clean fight. Let's see how they handle this one as we go side by side as well between Davidson and Andra down into turn 5. Andra to the inside, looking for the over-under. Davidson trying to get in there. And did we have a wreck between Kittleson and Bailey just now?
Yes,
Side by
sir.
side once again here for the GT3s. We can't step away from this battle quite yet. This thing is getting very hot between these two because now Alguero is into it once again.
This might give Alguero the opportunity you were wondering about, Joe. He might be able to slip in underneath if Davidson falls back in line, but Davidson's in no intention of falling back in line right now because he wants to get around Cy Andra here late in this thing.
Down towards the kink, Alguero still chasing Davidson just as the white flag comes out for Kenton Cook. So last lap is now. So much to watch. Ooh, defensive move down into the corner there from Cy. Davidson can't make anything of it. Guerrero still giving watch.
Yes, guys, it's also extremely hot right now. Jeffrey trying for the second time to take that position away from Paolo Brem. That is the last podium spot.
The lead just changed hands in that class. TCR lead has gone to Curtis Fox. And Exton, unfortunately, had some trouble with some lap traffic here. Let's take a look and see what happened.
Paolo Brem and Jeffrey also just came together.
Try and get both of these on the replay here. We'll start with this lead change. Ooh, yeah, that was a little bit awkward, unfortunately. And now we're looking at Brem with that change around with them, too.
Yeah, it was through turn 6, that Corvette bridge right under it. Jeffrey tried to go around the inside of Brem. Brem did close the door, but Jeffrey was already in it. And that's how Brem lost that position.
Still side by side. Davidson and Alguero, they've lost touch with Andra. Looks like Davidson is able to successfully fend off Mark. Only for the time being, though. He's still tight to him. Loses it off of turn 7. He's going to have to get back up to that rear bumper.
Alguero's going to need a good run through the carousel and down into Canada corner. That is the worst corner on track for Alexander Davidson. It's going to be his best opportunity.
So white flag for Curtis Fox as we're getting the checkers here for Kenton Cook as he comes up to the final corner. The number 1 car going to finish P1 today. How about this for Kenton Cook from the pole to the victory, showing him how it's done. A win in Wisconsin for Kenton Cook.
And Joe, a huge wreck behind him with that battle we were just talking about. Alexander Davidson and Cy Andra ran into some TCR traffic. They both are going to get taken out here, it looks like.
We'll go back to the replay here soon. Cy Andra will be able to come out with 6th place. Cantu, by the way, was 2nd, and Romagnolo 3rd. Those are your prize money winners, at least in the GT3s. We're still waiting for TCR drivers to get around where 5th is hot. JJ Ross fighting with Timmers, along with Ogren. We've seen these 3 together quite often. Whoa, late move there from Timmers. And he outbrakes himself. Off at turn 6, the crest costs him. Both of them are going to get by. Ogren up into 6th and Ross into 5th. As all this is happening, the leader is still Curtis Fox ahead of Exton. Another swap there. Ogren falling back to 7th. Timmers sneaks by. Meanwhile, Jacob Exton, 1.2 seconds back. I'm not sure if he can make this up in this little amount of time. Curtis Fox out of Canada corner and through Bill Mitchell Bend. Now he only needs 1 more corner successfully navigated, and he is going to take the win as Curtis Fox comes out of that final turn. up the main straight. The celebrations can begin for the number 45 because he is going to win today in the TCR class here at Wisconsin. Exton gets second. Jeffrey just slipping home into third. Looks like Bream will beat Ross with Timmers, Ogren, both following behind him. Let's take a look at that wreck. This was in the GT3 cars, I believe. Nick,
Yeah,
you got a good look at this.
Yeah, this was that battle between Cy Andra, Davidson, and Alguero for fifth place, or sixth place rather. They're going to come up on some TCR traffic of James Lewin. And Andra is you're gonna see him go left here to try to get around Lewin, and that's gonna be the wrong decision. It's gonna shoot the TCR up into the air, and then on come Davidson and Alguero.
That was a very hard hit. That's got to be disappointing for the final lap. I'm sure there'll be some discussions post-race between the drivers. It sounds like Andra's already putting his hands up on that one, though. We're going to take a quick break. Stick around, though, because we got the post-race show coming here. And in between that, you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. After that, we'll have the driver interviews as well as the unofficial results. Welcome back to Road America. We just watched round 4 here in the Racing Edge SimRacing series, and it was Kenton Cook who took the victory up in the GT3 class. Carlos Cantu wound up in second place with Giuliano Romagnolo in P3. Ethan Simeone finished fourth in the end after starting on the front row. That damage really hurt him. Gavin Sanders was not able to catch him, but Gavin, going from 14th to 5th, has got to feel pretty good. Cy Andra doesn't feel that great. He's apologized for a bit of a move at the end that wrecked a few cars. That was 6th for him. Alex Herrera wound up 7th, ahead of Davidson, who was involved in that wreck, who was 8th. Nick Latifi, P9, with Matt Clark rounding out your top 10. Igor Bembic was 11th, with Michael Melvin in 12th, Mark Alguero 13th, and Dustin Coates in 14th. Last two of our GT3s was Morad in 15th and Regium in 16th. Nick?
The cash-paying podium for the TCR class is going to go to Curtis Fox, Jacob Exton, and Stefan Jeffrey. What an exciting race over there it was, all 30 minutes long. Then Paulo Brem and James J.J. Ross, after a lot of issues that he was involved in, he's going to somehow find himself back up in 5th place. Daryl Timmers, Michael Ogren, Maxwell Kittleson, and Christopher Bailey. So much drama for those drivers who find themselves down through the field, 24th and 25th overall. Behind them, you've got Zachary Veneers, Vlad Dujsic, Brian Zinn, Alex Fedorko, and Rich Price, who will round out your top 30 overall on the grid. We did have some other drivers finish. Ramson Hito, David Schwartz, Mike Mills, James Lewin, and Nico Christodoulou will, I believe, round out the finishers of the 35 of the 44 cars that started this race.
And it looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Kenton Cook has joined us here. Kenton, hopping over from a GT3 Cup car with the Porsche over here to a GT3 Audi, and you seem just as comfortable in both. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's cool to win a couple dollars.
I bet. It looked like you had a little pressure at the start. Carlos was giving you some of a run for your money there. Did you feel that pressure at all inside the cockpit, or did you feel confident that you could ditch him eventually?
It was certainly more concerning than having him in my rearview mirror far behind me. So yeah, it felt the pressure a bit. I just didn't have the cleanest of starts there, and I made a couple mistakes that let him get to me, and I put my head down, and he ended up making a little mistake and getting in a battle with Ethan there. So it helped me kind of get away from him a bit. And then it was from there just trying to not make mistakes, turn some clean laps, and get through traffic as clean as possible. Because man, there was a lot of TCR cars to get through. Man, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, it was a filled field today.
Yeah. For the most part, they were all pretty clean though. There's not much you could do with those kind of closing rates for on their side.
Now, hopefully, we'll get to see more of you, but next round is going to be at a track that is fast, but not as many 90-degree corners. It's going to be Barcelona. Do you have much experience over there, since I assume you're mainly American track driver?
Yeah, I mean, not in real life, that's for sure. I've never been there in real life, but I've turned a few laps there on iRacing, so I'm pretty comfortable to hop on there and hopefully have a good race there as well. We'll see though. You never know, man. This is racing.
All right. Well, I think that says it all right there because anything can happen. Again, congratulations, and hopefully, we'll get to see you in a week's time.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Kenton Cook, Victor here today in the GT3 class. Second place in the TCRs. Nick has caught up with Jacob Exton, who's hopefully had a little chance to cool down.
Yeah, I definitely have. Sorry for that outburst there, guys. I didn't realize I hadn't turned off the main.
No problem, Jacob. You had I mean, obviously, anytime you get a 30-minute race, it's going to be packed with just drama and chaos. Talk us through what exactly you had going on from your point of view there. Definitely involved in a lot of good on-track battle.
Yeah, in the whole, honestly, I think it was a fantastic race altogether. It's always going to be tough on that track with that amount of traffic, but I thought I did a much better job pacing my tires this time around. Had some great battles at the end once I caught up to Curtis. Unfortunately, one of his teammates there on some fresh tires decided to play Eddie Irvine, so he's lucky it's not real life, or I'd be like Senna giving him a crack in the nose. So
Yeah, certainly is. One of the plus sides to virtual racing. We don't get to no one gets to punch anyone in real life unless you're in the same room. But thankfully for that, thankfully for you, that's not the case. You did mention a lot of good battles. How much of that for the TCRs was caused by the GT3s? What was your experience like being the slower class in traffic today?
honestly, I think for the most part they did a really, really good job. Like I said, it's a tough track to pass on. We had the one issue there when I was defending inside. Stefan was outside, and I think it was Daniel that dived up the inside there, and three into one corner just doesn't work. So there was obviously always going to be some sort of rub and give and take there. I had a couple of times where I got pushed offline, but that's just part of racing, I think, and that's what makes these longer races a little more interesting. Is the traffic does become a factor there, and as we saw at the end, it made for a great fight. It bunched us all right back up together, and but without the traffic, I think there's great competition within TCR. You know, Stefan, the way Curtis drove today deserves a lot of credit. You know, it was really tough to hang with him. I had a concussion last week, so I'm feeling a lot better. So it was a lot easier for me to stay consistent, and I think that showed in the race.
Wow, yeah, definitely a lot of good side by side action for you. Before we let you go, though today, anyone you want to give a thank you or a shout out to?
Yeah, this one always goes out to my old man Nick Exton. I do everything for him. He's my favorite human. And yeah, so this one goes out.
Awesome. Certainly got some good airtime today after another fantastic race. Hopefully, we get to talk to you again. But until then, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks for putting on a great show as always, boys.
That was second place finisher in the TCRs, Exton. Up next, we've got second place in the GT3 class, Carlos Cantu. Carlos, boy, it was a good fight at the start, but then it seems like Kenton had the legs on you at the end.
Yeah, he was fast. I couldn't catch him, and then I was kind of hoping traffic would make it easier, but it made it harder. And he just kind of, it wasn't until the end there that I got back within like a second and a half or 2 seconds of him. But yeah, once traffic hit, it was hard, man. We were just jumping around all these TCR cars like it was like a minefield. But yeah, it was good. And then I got passed and was in P3, and all I could do was put pressure. And you know, I don't know who was in front of me, but made a mistake. I think it was Ethan, and yeah, that's how we ended up in P2 today.
Yeah, I was going to say it seemed like once he got past you, you were holding on to him at the least. But I'm sure it feels good to get a little bit of cash in your pocket out of this. Do you think you'll show up once again, try and get a little bit more next time in Barcelona?
Absolutely, I love Barcelona, and you know, it's a good group of people we're racing with here, and I'm just excited to do.
We're excited to have you. You certainly gave us a show, especially there at the start. Anybody you want to thank before we let you go?
I just want to thank everybody for racing clean. Mainly, I mean, it was it as clean as could be, I think, and I think everyone did a really good job. And thank the people that are putting it on, Racing Edge, and you guys for.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. That was Carlos Cantu, our second place finisher here today from third on the grid, one spot up. Up next, our winner in the TCR is Curtis Fox, and Nick has caught up with him.
Yeah, certainly a wild day for Curtis Fox. Well, you got the job done eventually, but it wasn't without a little bit of some hectic racing for you.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, honestly, it was. I kind of just right from the start went and pulled a decent gap, and I just tried to conserve tires. But it's always interesting when the GT3s come through and you're watching your relative gap to those behind shrink. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's fun doing multi-class racing like this.
So talk about the certainly the multi-class racing spurred on a lot of the great battles we saw today. But talk about the racing in class that you had with Jacob and Stefan and everyone up there fighting for the podium. Of course, the cash-paying positions. From your perspective, what went on in the last 30 minutes?
Yeah, the battle with Jake was great, really fair. We had some good. He outbroke me on the outside of turn one and got the lead, and then I outbroke him on the outside of turn three and got the lead. So um, it was a lot of fun. I'll be honest, it wasn't the traffic that got our gap down to right in front of one another. There, it was me just dropping wheel and driving off onto the main straightaway. So uh, I'll take credit for uh, causing the great battle at the end there.
Well, you might have caused the great battle at the end, but you were also the victor of the great battle. Hopefully, we get to see you next time in Barcelona. That's definitely going to be a track that will create some interesting situations between the two classes. If you're going to be there, what's your confidence level heading into that track?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'll see. I might jump up to the R8s. I'll see if Daniel wants me to jump up. I am basically nowhere in TCR points. I've like crashed the first two races or three races, so I'm just going to race for fun. But I'll definitely be there. And if I'm in TCR, it's always a good car to battle in. So I will. I'll see you guys at the next race.
Awesome. Thank you for stopping by. That's Curtis Fox, who's going to be winding up on the TCR top step of the podium today. Joe, I believe you've caught up with one more driver from the GT3 class.
Yes, it's third place, Giuliano Romagnolo, who joins us. Giuliano, I have to say, we already had Senna mentioned once this broadcast, but you pulled a bit of a Senna yourself on that start from seventh to third in the first lap. How did you manage that?
Honestly, I'd have to go back and kind of watch exactly what happened because it kind of just all unfolded in front of me. I know a couple guys were battling, so I took advantage of kind of like the over unders, but it just all just came to me so quickly. I was lucky enough to make it through and was able to come out of that in P3 after lap one.
Do you usually consider yourself strong at the starts? Are you an aggressive driver for race starts, or is it like you said, where it's something that just kind of fell in your lap?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. I knew I was quick. I kind of had the jitters, honestly, through qualifying, and cost me at least a couple tenths. I don't think I would have been on the front row, but at least on the second row. So I knew I had the pace, and I knew if I was patient on the first lap that I could probably make some moves. That was my game plan anyway. That's kind of everybody's game plan, is at least to take a couple cars in the first lap while the tires are cold, because I knew my race pace would have been able to compete for the win at least. So yeah, I mean, a mixture of me being patient, being able to make the moves, and the open space, being available to me from other guys battling, made it pretty easy for me to go from P7 to P3.
Well, certainly looked like a masterclass from our perspective. Great drive, great podium. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you next week.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. As always, thank you so much for broadcasting. You guys always do a great job. And I just want to do a shout out to all my goats out there. Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome stuff. You can see those goats on the side of his car as well. Let's talk to one more driver. Nick has caught up with third in the TCRs.
Yes, that would be Stefan Jeffrey, who, like you said, will wind up at third in the TCRs. It was a battle for the podium, that last cash paying position for you today, Stefan, but you will wind up on top. Give us your point of view, your ride throughout the 30-minute race today, fending off guys like Paolo and James. Great job you did there, but it didn't come without having to work hard for it.
Man, honestly, I'm sweating in my sim racing seat right now. It's been a hectic 30 minutes. It was fun nonetheless. Great battle with Jake at the start there. The GT3 is coming through. I think Daniel, we were 3 wide into the last corner and hit the grass and ended up going off track. Put me to P5, I believe. It took me a while, but crazy battles with I think Paolo at the end. I don't think he's gonna be too pleased with me. I kind of stuffed it in there, but yeah, I was just trying to hustle to get back up.
Yeah, and our commentator Stefan was mentioning how the TCR tires were maybe going to be under a little bit of pressure. You certainly had no break on your tires today. How did the handling change for you in such intense battles throughout the 30 minutes?
Initially, everything was going to plan. I think behind Jake, I wasn't gonna pressure him too much. Just kind of trying to conserve my tires a bit. Everything was going perfectly fine, and then that incident happened in the last corner, and I just destroyed my tires in the last 15 minutes of the race, trying to hustle to get back up there to claim the last spot in the podium.
Yeah, not too surprised to hear that, but hey, your investment in those tires, it paid out because you're going to get a little bit of a payday. So, congratulations on that. Thanks for stopping by. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Shout out to my fam for always supporting me here. I mean, even though it's sim racing, it's still racing, right? And the broadcast is great from you guys. Shout out to you guys, of course, for putting on a great broadcast. Racing Edge, Daniel Morad, those guys have been doing a fantastic job with this series so far. The multi-racing class has been absolutely amazing. Yeah, other than that, I hope to compete in the next 2 rounds.
Awesome. Hope to have you here. Hope to be able to speak to you again in the booth. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.
Stefan Jeffrey finishing 3rd place in the TCRs. Joe, thankfully we had a lot of drivers stop by today, but I believe you've got some parting words for us.
I do indeed, with a big thank you to all the podium finishers for coming and chatting with us. We also want to thank the promoters of this race, Racing Edge. Again, you can find them at racingedge.com if you want to see what kind of cool cars you can snag from them. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Stefan, Nick, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is @GSR Channel, our Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and our Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store. It's gsrc.storeenvy.com. There's a link in the description below where, if you also look just below the video, you'll see a little red button that says subscribe. Click that and you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over to Spain. That'll be Tuesday, May 19th at 4 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so make sure and check those out and mark them down on your calendar. And while you're there, make sure and join us for tonight where we are covering the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.